So welcome everybody to another Awakening Your Health Potential episode. And today I have the lovely Jenna Logan, and we're going to discuss all things postpartum. So Jenna and I have a shared love and passion for pregnancy, fertility, and postpartum issues for women. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, Jenna.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for
So how did you kind of get into this? And tell everyone what your journey has been.
Yes. So like so many other birth workers, it's been through our own experience of having children that has led us to enter this birth world as support for women having babies and in their postpartum. And that was exactly my story. I was in the corporate world, fell pregnant with my first child, and really that was an awakening for me to see the lack of support, I guess, that was readily available, and that what we were talking about in our work environments and home and family circles and friend circles. And I thought I knew how I wanted things to unfold and go, but it was a very different reality, entering a terrain that I'd never navigated before and not knowing where to go for what. And it was really through the birth of Willow that once I had her, I just could not get out of my mind how I was going to enter the birth world. And I left my business that I had and formulated a plan and retrained to be a birth and postnatal doula, placenta specialist. And as the years have gone on, I've just kept adding to my training so I can offer more and more. And I now have 3 children, and postpartum is something that I'm extremely passionate about and shining a light on, because here in Australia, a lot of us have moved away from our family support, and ultimately we just don't do postpartum well. We have an attitude that we kind of need to do it alone and just kind of suck it up and get on with it. But we're not really aware of the damage that we're doing to ourselves.
Totally. My kind of experience with my first child was when I was pregnant, I just had this, I've always been quite close to my mum, but I had this deep desire that I had to be around my mum. So we lived in WA and she was in New South Wales. And I wanted her at the birth. And my first husband was from Tanzania, and birth was all about the women.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, in Africa, women do this together. The men have no idea what they're doing. Yeah. So it's a woman's thing. And I really respected that. And my mum was kind of my birth partner, and it was just such an amazing experience, and that craving for just to be around her and it's like that shared wisdom, and I often refer to it as the innate feminine wisdom. And it's like that need to have that wisdom of women that have been through it, that are holding your hand, that are not telling you what to do, but that you can just have that
holding space.
Yeah.
They're holding space. And, I feel that, for you to have that experience first time is brilliant, because really it is something that I've learned over the years and really embraced throughout my work, that it is women's business. Our men don't understand it, and it's really putting them in the hot seat, expecting them to step up to something that they really know nothing about. Which is totally what I did to my husband first time round. I was like, you are going to be my everything. You're going to be my birth partner. You're going to be able to tell what stage of labour I'm in, and tell me when we're going to go to the hospital, because we've done this course.
Yeah.
And he's like, yep, great. But really,
he was like, whoa.
Not okay. And
I often talk to women who are having their partners, like in my third birth, my partner was there, and he was amazing. He was really amazing. But we did prep towards birth, and like my big thing was, in terms of like, as a general stereotype, is men like to fix things. Men don't want to see their women suffering and in pain. But in this circumstance, there's nothing to fix.
No.
So I kind of made that really clear to my partner. I'm like, you know, like, I'm going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to be moaning. He said I sounded like a werewolf. It was a full moon. Like, I was like really letting it go in my first, I was really quiet.
Yeah.
And it was like that you just have to know there's nothing to fix. You just got to be there with me. And I often say that to women that are having their birth partners, make it clear to them that you don't need them to fix anything. It's just like this shared experience that you're in it together.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important for our partners to be present if they want to, and you want them there, because it is such an incredible transformative experience for both. But it is the education that they have around what their role is, and managing those expectations before you get in the birth room is so important. And that's where the work of a doula is brilliant, because they support both the birthing woman and the partner. So we're not there to take over what the partner might want to be doing, but we're there to really hold space and oversee and let you know that you're safe. And it's okay.
And guide, you know, because the woman in labour doesn't want to be thinking about what they're going to be telling their partner that they need. And that doula's like that middle ground where she can be in herself.
Yes.
And the doula can kind of gently suggest, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you be with her like this? And so I think that, for men, I think it's awesome for women, but I think it's like it's such an amazing service for men to be a part of.
And I think the men, when they've been a part of a birth and had a doula there, they become the raving fan for the doula. They're like, yes, you need to have one, because that just took the pressure off. All of a sudden they're not in that fear space, and they're really able to be present for the birth of their child,
Yeah, and so that's all about kind of the birth, which we do pay a lot of attention to.
Yes, and look, that is, in our society, we put so much energy and time into preparing for the birth and for our pregnancy, and then we often go home even if we've had a beautiful home birth and we've got our baby, and it's like, what do we do now? And things haven't been set up in terms of environment and really understanding what changes are going on for that birthing woman and what the roles are of people in that inner circle. And
traditionally, like, that's changed from like traditional cultures to
absolutely
now.
And traditional cultures have been doing it actually so well for millennia, and we really need to take stock, and this is, part of the work that we're doing as postpartum educators, is talking about that the idea that the first 40 days will set you up for the rest of your life, essentially, because there's the idea that there's a sacred window of time that we need to honour as women who have just been through the most transformational experience that you can go through physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And we need time to heal, to bond with our baby, to establish our breastfeeding, and to allow adjustment to happen for the whole family.
Yeah, absolutely. I read this article once that really, it's really sat with me, and I realised the importance of postpartum was, I think it was like an African story. And so it was like, the women birth together, and then the kind of role of the different ages of women that are around the mother are automatically allocated different things. So like the grandmother, basically the grandmother afterwards, the baby has, is sleeping or resting with an auntie, and the grandmother massages the woman. That's her job. Her role is to look after her daughter and massage her and relax her body. And I was like, wow, that's just so beautiful. Like, to just have that kind of community set up where everyone has their role to play, and they know what's expected of them and where that boundary is, because I think that can get lost a little bit, with mothers and mother-in-laws, and, they're wanting their 2 bobs worth, but, like crossing lines and creating stress. And so it's kind of just establishing all those boundaries
and understanding and talking about before you have baby, who you want to be a part of your inner circle. I talk about this a lot because everyone has different needs, and they are looking for those to be met when there's a new baby, because they want to be around this new bubba that just is pure love, you know. But what we need to be doing is changing that conversation and talking about, what does mum need?
Yeah, instead of, I want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Can I come round and hold your baby for 3 hours? Like, you know, no, because actually that is going to stress the baby out, and that's going to stress mum out, because there's still this symbiotic period of, you may be out of the womb, but now you're connecting and bonding and creating secure attachment for your baby outside of the womb. Mm-hmm. So playing past the parcel with baby is actually overstimulating, and it's not making Bubba feel safe. And mum won't feel great either, watching her baby be passed around. And you may wonder that, go, why don't I feel good? You know, what's happening with me? You know, and you start to feel really anxious. And then that next feed that you do with Bubba is not great, because you have all these different emotions going on, and that are not conducive to where you are in your new parenting journey of just having had a baby.
Yeah. So establishing that inner circle.
Yeah. So this is,
you really emphasize.
Yeah. So talking to your partner and really going, who can be of support the way that we want to do this?
And is there an ideal number of people?
No.
It's just like who you feel.
Yes.
Might be 3, 4, 5. That
yeah.
sort of.
And so, again, to your point of people having specific roles, you know, who's bringing over meals and just leaving them at the front door? Who are perhaps a part of my holistic therapies team, who, you know, is my chiropractor coming over? Who have I organised to give me a massage? Who's looking after other little ones, so then I know I can really have that time in bed that I need? Who can come and talk to me and just help me debrief things that are going on, but not people who are going to be taking anything from you. You know, it's all about people filling you up and giving you what you need. And if, you know, there's any stress involved with those people that you think maybe we could invite them in, but you know that they're actually not going to give you what you need, then there's another conversation that needs to take.
I mean, this is like such a common issue. I'm just like, my brain's going about, you know, because I work with a lot of pregnant women as well. It's like that obligation, and women feel terribly obligated, you know, and especially because people take it so personally if they don't get to see the baby, you know, in the first couple of weeks, you know. It becomes a real personal problem.
Yes.
And so then mothers feel obligated to say yes when they actually don't want to say yes. So that's a huge thing.
It is. And it's really about us as women feeling worthy of having the support that we know we need.
Yeah.
Because if we're not well, how do we take care of our baby?
Exactly.
The way that we want to, and be the mother that we want to.
Give yourself oxygen first.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. And we end up trying to wear all these hats too soon, and then we wonder why our breastfeeding journey is not going the way that we want it to.
Yeah.
So oxytocin, whilst it is what we need when we're in labour to keep contracting and what have you, it's what we need when we are in those early phases of postpartum.
Well, it's the love hormone, isn't it?
It is. And one of my teachers, Julia Jones, she says the only 2 roles of a newborn mother is to learn to breastfeed and to bond with her baby. They are the only 2 things that she needs to be doing. It takes 6 weeks to establish your milk supply. You know, there's a reason why this 6-week period exists, and the things that need to take place within that time period. But if we're putting too much on our plate too soon, we're going to compromise our ability to do that.
And then get depleted and get, and when I say emotional, I don't mean normal emotional because you've got a new baby, but like not feeling good, over emotional.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, women, we give ourselves these goals. We want to achieve breastfeeding for X amount of months exclusively or what have you. But in order to do that, we have to work out what's involved for us to achieve that goal, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm out there, and this is one of the things I say to mums, if it doesn't come easy, if it's not an easy task to do, don't do it, because you're just going to be compromising your oxytocin and that feeling of happiness and just enjoying where you are in your journey. And it's a real, it's a moment, which is why I do this work with women before they have babies, so that they can start doing some of the inner work that's required to go, I can have this conversation with and sometimes it might be close family who think that they want to be a part of your inner circle, but you know that actually this is not going to be helpful to me right now. And so that can start to cause you anxiety thinking about it. But you have to map out how you want to talk about it. And quite often it's asking them, what do you feel you're capable of doing for us? How do you want to be involved this time?
That's a really great question. Can you just say that again?
How do you want to be involved, or what do you feel capable of bringing?
That is such a great question.
Yeah. And
that's an easy way to start the conversation. And then it's about like what they can offer rather than what they expect to get, which is
correct. Or you go,
yeah.
Yeah, or you going, well, we're doing our postpartum like this, and this is what we need. And if you can't do it, well, that's it. Yeah. But it's not. It's really, finding out exactly what they want to do. And quite often that, like you say, it changes the dynamic, and people all of a sudden start going, well, actually, I could bring meals, or I could come and take the little one for a couple of hours, or I could do washing for you.
Yeah.
Like who need, and this is the thing, when we talk about your two roles as a new mama, it's like that simple. So all of those other tasks need to be filled with someone, and who's doing that? And it sounds, a lot of people are like, well, how do I do that? Like, I don't have family support here, or, I don't have a big enough friend circle, or I don't feel comfortable asking that. And I always say, give them the option, ask them what they feel capable of doing. And once you know where the gaps are, you have to go about plugging those. So
who doesn't want to be around a new mum and baby?
I know.
When you, like, it's like if a woman actually feels like she doesn't have enough, like, family or friends to fill that, I don't think she's actually given the opportunity, because oh my God, like, how many women are just going to go, oh my God, I can be part of this? Like, it's such a special time. I think that, for any woman out there that thinks they don't have enough people,
absolutely.
As soon as you put that out there, there's going to be so many people go, I would love to help. And
that's the mindset shift, Sarah, is that they need to feel worthy of receiving. And it is a real time of receiving. And that work that, we've been so conditioned to be able to do it all and just carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And, then, a couple of weeks in, we've got mastitis, we're exhausted, so
no lists are getting done.
What's that, sorry?
No lists are
getting done. Oh my God, and it's just like an absolute, it feels like a mess. And the things that you'd like to have done are not being done. So that's just causing more stress and anxiety. So understanding that if you can give yourself this time to really receive and bring in the people that can do the task that you need, so you can have the rest, so you can learn to breastfeed and bond with your baby and have that adjustment period for the whole family. We talk about perhaps bringing in a external help, but can we afford that? And it's like, start a postpartum fund. Instead of having baby shower gifts or what have you, start the education with your friends and family before baby arrives, so that people can contribute to this fund that will actually help pay for the support that you need. Yeah. Because when you understand that the negative impact of not going slow and giving yourself this time to recover after birth and bond with your baby and learn to breastfeed, then, we are really just setting ourselves up for such a difficult journey long term.
And I think this part of it, my brain's going do. It's like women who are really efficient, really good at their work in the corporate world. They literally have tasks that they need to get done. They make lists, they check them off, and they feel good about that. Then you go into motherhood. The first thing I say to mothers that are not coping is dump the lists. There's no list, there's nothing to be done except be with your baby. Everything else has to be second that. And then after months, you can start doing that again. Yeah. It's like our brains don't work. We have baby brain for a reason.
Absolutely. So that's when the neuroplasticity of our brain actually goes back to how it was when we were infants, similar to our newborn babies, so that we can learn new things.
Yeah. So we can't function like we have been, like the busyness and the list. We can't cognitively function. Did you know your brain, you probably do, when you're pregnant and breastfeeding, shrinks 10%?
Yeah,
it physically shrinks 10%. And for women out there, that is very specifically for a reason.
That's right. So if we carried on life with having the same capabilities that we did pre-baby, how would we be taking care of our baby?
Exactly. Not as well as we could.
Exactly. We would be missing some of those cues and that really key bonding phase that we need to have with our new baby. And it is so interesting when you think about how baby brain plays into us being able to mother our children. But what is also really interesting is that if you give yourself this time, you actually increase your ability to be able to take new things on at a appropriate pace. So you give yourself that, if you can't do 40 days, take it back to 2 weeks. But you're really going to start to feel good after that 2 weeks. Anyone who has major surgery, does a major athletic or physical event in the world, what do they do after they've had that surgery or finished that event?
Nothing.
They rest.
It's all about recovery.
They rest and they recover and they eat well and they have people who help their bodies where they need to. They have physios and chiros and all different types of bodywork healers and whatever it is that you're into. It's not I'm just going to start training again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we as women, as birthing women and women in this community, need to start really taking that in and going, I don't need to be all things to everybody.
Yeah.
I need to start changing that dialogue and reframing my belief for what I feel I deserve and what I'm worthy of receiving, because it's the ultimate surrender.
Totally. And I think that, again, when you go back to how good women are at working if they've never had a baby before, and I think there's also an expectation postpartum about how they're going to mother. And I often say to people, don't have any expectation, because even when they're working, so I often say to people, if you can take 6 weeks off before your due date, that's much more ideal than 2, 3, or 4.
Yes.
Go for 6.
Yes.
And people think, oh my God, that's so long. That's such a long time. And I'm like, you're actually going to, once all that, you need that time before, and then the time after, if you've got a year, like with maternity leave, after a year, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, you're going to be ready to go back to work. If you come from that environment by 9, 10, 12, 11 months, you're going to need the time before, not after.
Yes.
And I think that, for a lot of women, it's that lack of feeling independent that they're scared of. The feeling of, I have to depend on somebody else. I don't have my financial independence. I'm not going to have my brain working properly. I'm going to have to rely on my partner or my friends or my circle for things instead of me being able to do everything. I think that's really hard. But the other thing that I try and reassure women is that once you go on maternity leave, well, actually, when they're early, I say, once you get to kind of 6, 7, 8 months, you're not going to be prioritizing work anymore. And then by that time, they're always like, yeah, I just don't really care anymore. And I'm like, that's why you need 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how you're going to feel. Everything changes. And so if you can just let yourself go with that feeling, it automatically happens, because women have been doing this for centuries.
Yes.
And it's just allowing those feelings, allowing the fact that you're going to feel different. You're not going to feel like this forever, and you can still go back and have a career however many years down the track.
Yeah.
But for now, it's like, be in this because this is so special and it doesn't last long.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's asking yourself the question, what type of mother do I want to be? And why am I having this baby? Really realizing and doing and understanding that, because you will never be the same. And, you know, we talk about the birth of a baby, but, you know, you are born as a mother as well.
That's so
Every
true.
time you have a baby, you go through this transformation, and I believe that you receive gifts as a new mum, and things that you maybe weren't able to do before. You just have this new lens on life.
And intuition, the mother's intuition that's there is like incredible. It's like another way for us to step really into our intuitive bodies. That's
completely. And, you know, it's that trust you need to feel within yourself to know that no one knows your baby better than you. No one does. You know if something's not right with your baby, if your baby's unwell or what have you, but it's being able to trust yourself and taking that 6 weeks off is you feeling into your body and connecting with your baby and knowing, I know that we are where we're meant to be and we're okay.
And setting up that environment and having those conversations. And
that's right.
Yeah. My mum used to say to me, you know, well, maybe it was just for my first pregnancy, but she would say to me, don't read too many books. You know, read books, get some information, educate yourself, but don't read too many books. You know, then it's like you've got the information, integrate it, and then go to that intuition, go to that trust. You know, you were born to be a mother.
Yes.
So you know what your baby needs.
That's
you just
right.
got to get rid of the mental talk that stops you from feeling that.
And all the external noise of other people's stories or what's on the news and, you know, what we've been conditioned to believe about it. This is your journey. This is your experience with your baby. You have to figure it out. And really, your intuition is so strong. If you just let everything else go quiet and have that time, you will really start to feel that and get those messages that you're meant to. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about placenta encapsulation. This is something I've never done. I've never done placenta encapsulation. I think I didn't really know about it in my first. I might have. I don't remember. Or maybe I did actually. I remember in my first I didn't even look at the placenta. Yeah, it was a bit like...
Yeah.
Actually, in my first, I forgot there was even a placenta that was going to come out. And so as Bubby is lying on my chest, I'm like, oh, my God, there's another one coming. Totally forgot I had a placenta to birth.
Oh, my God, I love it. I love it.
It's so much bigger than what you think it is. You know, like the way it births afterwards is like, oh, my God. So it was, by that stage, I was like, no, I don't need to see it. In my third one, I had a really good look at it. And I have frozen it, but it's 2.5 years old now. Yeah. But I have thought about, you know, that the density of nutrients that are in it.
Yes.
So maybe tell me like how you got into it and why.
Absolutely.
And what it is actually. Talk about what it is.
So look, the placenta is grown and develops when you conceive your baby. So it is the organ that it's an organ that we grow in conjunction with our baby to provide all the nutrients, oxygen, blood that it needs to grow. And it attaches to the uterus. So it grows at the same rate comparably to your baby. So a full-term pregnancy will have a placenta that, you know, could be the size of a medium-sized dinner plate. If you're, depending on the size of your baby, determines the size of your placenta. The placenta also tells us so much about the health of your baby, which is why after you birth, Bubs, the midwife or the obstetrician will always have a good look at it to see what condition it is in, and if there's anything that it can tell them about the health of Bubs, if perhaps it was a low birth weight baby or what have you. So once we give birth, the umbilical cord still attached, and it's attached to the placenta, which needs to come away from the uterine wall inside of us. So if you think about your placenta being about this big and it peeling away from the uterus, then you end up with a wound inside you this big.
I never thought about that, actually, as being a wound. Of course,
Yeah.
and that's why you bleed.
And that's why you bleed.
Oh, God, I've never actually thought of that.
So then that wound has to heal. And it heals by contracting, which is when we experience oxytocin, we're breastfeeding our baby, we'll have a letdown of milk, and we'll get an almighty uterus contraction pain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they get more intense as we have more babies.
Oh, yeah. My third one was like, I had to breathe like I was giving birth with my third one when I was breastfeeding.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God.
And, like, who tells you about the afterbirth pains? They're like, oh, yeah, they'll be there. You know, it can get worse. Ladies, get a heat pack ready every time you feed.
Arnica.
For the first 3-4 days after giving birth.
Yeah.
So you have this wound inside of you that is healing. And that is, and when we talk about that symbiotic 6-week period, you're learning to breastfeed in that time. Your uterus contracts back to its original size of a pear over that 6-week period. And the bleeding should stop. Now, within that period, if you have 10 days of bed rest and then you start going out there thinking you can do so many different things, you're lifting heavy objects, you're hanging washing, you're going for big walks, and you start bleeding more, take it as a sign. I need to slow down, because your body's telling you that you are doing too much. So back to the placenta encapsulation, I learned about this when I had Willow, and it's just something that resonated with me straight away. I was like, I'm doing that. Nothing feels more right for me to do in my postpartum. That was all I did for my postpartum, actually. And I booked it, I got it done, and I had nothing else to compare it to. But
explain to people what it is. What is placenta encapsulation?
So placenta encapsulation is dehydrating of the placenta and having it pulverized into a fine powder and put into vegetable capsules for you to take orally. So many different cultures have talked about eating and consuming the placenta and the nutritional benefits that you get from it. I have to be really careful about saying these are the benefits of consuming your placenta, because it's not a regulated industry. And because of that, there hasn't been the extensive research done through different organisations, because it's something that can't be replicated. It's
every placenta is a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's a one-time thing. You're only consuming your own.
Yeah.
You know? And so the way that I felt and the way that many women report feeling is that they have this euphoric feeling when they take their capsules. It gives you like an energy boost. It can also support your milk supply, along with different nutrients or, you know, iron stores and things like that that you can't get any other way. Like the way I see it is there's so much like alchemy and such a sacred process with consuming your placenta and what it can actually do for you. I feel as a woman, you're either into it or you're not. There's no middle ground, you know. I certainly don't try and convince women that they should do this and they're going to feel a certain kind of way, because it's something, again, you have to go on your own intuition on what feels really good for you.
The thing that I've questioned, which you might be able to answer this for me, is, or I think I've questioned it, I don't think I read it, I think I've questioned it, is doesn't it still contain like the hormones of pregnancy? Or not? Or is that just because my kind of thought process is if we're then consuming an organ that has all the hormones of pregnancy, isn't that going to be negative to your milk supply because you're consuming hormones as if you're still pregnant?
Yeah, so I mean, I've read not studies, but articles that people have posted about that as well, and not even that women who encapsulated experienced low milk supply, but just the question of does the placenta still hold the pregnancy hormones, therefore it's not going to work for milk supply. I haven't done those particular studies or, you know, can say confidently that they do or that they don't. But what I know is that women, and I've done it with all 3 of my children, is that I've never had a problem with my milk supply.
And you would have done this for a lot of women, though.
And I have encapsulated for hundreds of women now.
And so what's your experience?
I've never
anything.
No. And I keep in no. Yeah. And so I keep in touch with my clients once we've done the encapsulation, and, you know, I keep in touch with them for the weeks and what have you after to see how it's going, what are they noticing and what have you. And the number of testimonials that I have from women just raving about it is, you know, tells me that there's something to it.
Yeah,
totally. And the more and more I do it.
And so do you end up consuming the whole thing? Like whole thing is dehydrated? Is it just part of it, or? Yeah,
we do the whole placenta. We remove the 2 layers of membranes that make up the amniotic sac. But then everything else is dehydrated and pulverized for consumption, including the umbilical cord. We have an option that you can have a cord keepsake made out of the umbilical cord in the shape of a heart or what have you, or it can be put in to be pulverized and consumed as well.
So what is it? What's it? Is like something you wear?
Oh my God, no, you put it in your baby's keepsake box.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like it's a dehydrated, and it, you know, it's beautiful. And, you know, so that is the option that you have.
It's like with their first haircut.
Yes, completely. Right. That's exactly what it's like. I just love it. They love it.
Yeah, it would be. It's kind of like I used to keep all my teeth that have fallen out. So I had all these mini teeth. I couldn't let go of my teeth, you know. So I guess it would be, you know, a part of your body and a part of your history. And what about like someone like me who I've still got my 3rd placenta? You know, Mum pulls it out of the freezer every once in a while and go, oh, that's right, your placenta's still here. Is that still? I mean, I've listened to some amazing podcasts recently on stem cells and how the stem cells. I mean, we can get stem cells from lots of different tissues in the body, but the quality of the stem cells in the placenta is everything that is for growth for life. So the quality of those stem cells is obviously the best quality you can get, and people should consider, and I might just mention this now, people should consider banking their placenta, just because if they ever need it, if their kids ever need it, you know, the quality of those stem cells is just the ones you would want.
Yeah.
So I've thought about, you know, where I am in life, and, you know, I'm on, I guess, the other side of growth, you know, so I'm in my mid-40s. And I know that my hormones are just starting to shift a little bit. And so I'm thinking, you know, that it's like the quality of the tissue cells, nutrients in my placenta that's still sitting there could be of like amazing benefit for regeneration as to where I am in my life now.
Yes, yeah. The stem cells, like, we know that they are incredible. And I would say for someone like you who's kept their placenta, which is very clever, if you have
to plant a tree with it, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So
And I would say you probably want to get around to doing that.
Yeah.
Go and have that, beautiful ritual of planting your placenta, But the cord, oh my goodness, I would keep that now if I were you,
I don't know if they have the cord. Well, I mean, I'm not sure.
It would be.
I mean, it would just be attached to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other remedies that can be made out of your placenta. There are placenta essences and tinctures that can be made out of a small part of your placenta, and that have been said to support women going through menopause or for those later years as well. So I have a tincture for when that time comes in my life, and obviously I can't tell you what it's done for me because I'm not there yet, but I'm kind of the belief.
It makes sense.
Yes,
it makes a lot of sense.
And these are the types of remedies that were made back in the day. Like people. When we talk about being into herbalism and naturopathy and different things like that. Like we made things from everything that we had access to. And, I feel like, again, it's one of those things that has to resonate within you and you have to look into it. And I've spoken with women who, have really wanted to do one part of wanted to do encapsulation, and then in the last minute they went, this doesn't feel good for me, but you know what, I want the smoothie, and then I want to get like a tincture that I can, hold on to for down the track. This is my last baby. This is what I want to do.
So would encapsulation be good for someone like me? I mean, there's probably not many people that have kept their placenta, but, would you just go, it's not really relevant right now?
As long as it's been stored correctly. I've encapsulated from frozen placenta. You can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
And I would suggest going and having a full, get all your bloods done before.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really great idea, actually, because then you can do some good measurements.
Yeah, absolutely. And then take it and see what comes out, because that's what we don't do. And I'll actually tell you an interesting story. It's when I fell pregnant with Micah, my third, I fell pregnant 9 months after having Riley. So, when you fall pregnant, you go and have a whole heap of blood tests and things like that. And I was working with my naturopath, and she was like, oh my goodness, your iron levels are ridiculous, like so good. And she's like, and she knew I always encapsulate. She goes, have you been taking anything else? And I said, just the caps. And she was like, wow, well, look, if we started doing studies on this, it would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, and even a good point for mothers out there, because it just helps us actually, create some more data that shows the benefit. So yeah, that's a really good point for women that are thinking about encapsulating after birth. Have some bloods done while you're still under care of whatever sort, and then if you want to do the placenta encapsulation a couple of months later. How long do they normally last?
They normally last 3 to 6 months. Just
depending. Wow. Okay. Yeah, right.
If the average amount that my clients would get out of their placenta would be around 150, 160 capsules, which would last you. Yeah. Right. I've had some really, really enormous placentas, which are just so gorgeous. I mean, I'm a placenta junkie, I love it. I love looking at them, seeing what's going on. It just is such a beautiful process. And I just think, oh God, what an honour to be working on such an incredible organ that has supported this baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this mama, just incredible.
Yeah. And what else? What else do you think is really important in terms of postpartum?
Food.
Yes.
How hungry are we? And we don't have time to cook when we have a newborn baby in our arms. But the food that we have access to is so, so important. And if we are, it's one of those real psychological things for women as well. If we're reaching for foods that we know are not good for us, that plays on our mind.
But you can see it straight away in your baby. Again, when I work with women postpartum, and, such a common pattern, which you probably see as well, as, that kind of mid-afternoon to bed witching hour, the witching hour in those first couple of months, and your baby can't settle and blah, 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 blah. I always go back to, okay, what have you eaten during the day? Because you basically, if you just ate brekkie and a little bit at lunch and not enough water and haven't rested, by the time the end of the day comes, you're depleted. And so your quality of milk goes, and Bub's going, I'm not getting enough.
I'm not full.
More and more depleted.
Yeah, absolutely. And, through this physical transformation that we've been through, there's nothing else comparable to giving birth that humans go through. We go through from having this huge, large belly holding a lot of heat and water to birthing and now having a whole heap of air and
fluid coming out,
losing all the fluid.
Yeah.
And so we need to bring that back into our bodies so that we restore balance and vitality. And it also means, as we know in those later phases of pregnancy, that our digestive system is really sluggish. Our organs have been pushed all over the place. The amount that we can actually consume is less than normal. And then we give birth and our organs are now finding their way back home. Where do they belong? I feel really loose, I feel really unstable. And that's part of the healing that we need to go through so that everything can go back to its normal place. But if we're having foods that are shocking our system and are not feeling good when we're eating them, then our body, it's literally like you're having that ice cold glass of water when you're already freezing. You don't need that. You need to be bringing warm foods and that feel good and that we can digest.
So can you talk a little bit, because you kind of have done some training in the Ayurvedic foods postpartum, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the principle about Ayurveda is that we are what we digest. If we have the most nutrient-dense meal, but our body is unable to digest it, then it was all for nothing. So particularly in postpartum, it's understanding that we all are at the same playing field after giving birth because we've all lost this heat, the fire in our bodies, the air, the water. And regardless of what your constitution was like before giving birth, when we give birth, we all need to bring the same type of elements back into our body. So Ayurveda talks about there being doshas, and everything works around earth, water, fire, and air. And the foods that a newborn mother needs are warming, slow-cooked, oily, sweet foods. They're the things that you want. Now, you can get all of those things in incredibly nutrient-dense meals that your body will digest. So it's no wonder that you're craving sweet, because we want sweet, but we can get the good sweet.
Yeah. Not the refined white sugar in a cup of tea.
No.
Sweet.
No, that's exactly right. Or, the Snickers bar at 3:00 in the afternoon that you're reaching for, or the vanilla custard tart,
That's a recipe. That's a recipe for witching hour.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't have time. We find ourselves really on that back foot, and now I'm just reaching for whatever I can get my hands on that is going to make me just feel okay. So having meals prepared that are specific to your postpartum journey.
And so slow cooked most things is pretty good, that's actually makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ayurveda talks about it all being plant-based vegetarian, and if you can do that, that is really the best start that you're giving yourself. But again, if you're really into your animal proteins and you want that, then you just, you've got to do a slow cook and have it so it's basically melt in your mouth. So
you wouldn't slow cook veggies, or you would still do that anyway?
You can slow cook your veggies, that's fine. But anything raw, you don't want that, because
raw and cold, and
you think about your digestive fire, and that your digestive system's really sluggish. So if you eat a raw carrot, your body is going to have to be working really hard to digest that. But if that's been in a beef cheek slow cook and it's just basically falling apart, your body's just going to be thanking you for it.
Yeah.
And you'll actually get the nutrients from it. And that's what it's about, putting, good broths in your body, things with high collagen intake, soups with, and the cooking that we do, it's a lot of ghee and anything that's going to help reduce inflammation. It's also, when you think about it, that first bowel movement.
Oh, yeah, that's scary.
Oh, yeah. You just want it to be able to come right
out. Yeah.
You don't want to be thinking, oh, I had that salad. So it didn't feel good digesting that, and it's certainly not feeling good now on the other way out, or even, when you've been craving, people are like, I just really wanted a burger after I had a baby. It's like, you will get to the point where you can have that burger. Yes,
totally. Yeah.
But just give yourself a head start, do yourself a favour, and just have some meals at the ready that are going to start putting good stuff back into your body.
Yeah, and that's a good message for, that kind of community that we've set up beforehand in terms of being able to guide them with food as well, like slow cooked, lots of veggies, bit of meat protein if you want to do that. But that's probably quite an easy guide for community kind of support as well.
Yeah, it is. And people would love to make a meal, and that makes them feel really good as well. And there are lots of places where you can find good recipes for postpartum and share that with your inner circle if they're going to be doing a meal train, know.
Have you got a good website for that we could post for people?
Yeah, absolutely. There's Newborn Mothers Collective. The First 40 Days does a beautiful recipe book. And there are a lot of different sites like Joyful Belly that has a lot of different Ayurvedic recipes that you could incorporate into your postpartum as well.
Cool. I'll just put them in the notes so people can refer to them as well.
Yeah. Great.
And what about your new business, Jenna? Because you've just realised recently that, this is such a huge need. And again, because we don't have as much community support, and a lot of people in Australia are internationals. And at the moment with COVID, most people, I've got about 6 pregnant women I'm working with at the moment. All of them have mothers internationally, and none of them can come out here. So that's really devastating for them. So they don't have that kind of mother support that can just be like cooking all those beautiful things and nourishing us. And again, it's a lot to expect your partner to be doing everything.
Absolutely.
So if people don't have that support, you've kind of realised that there's a bit of a need for this for women and families.
Absolutely. So, throughout my journey of becoming a mother and my own postpartum journeys and not being near family and things like that, the food and learning that the food that we have access to is so important. I started making meals for new mums, and that has now evolved to us launching Meals for Mamas, which is an Ayurvedic postpartum meal delivery service. And it just complements the other work that I do so well. And it's such a feel good because we know that the foods that we are making are just exactly what our newborn mothers need, and that then partners or husbands, they can easily reheat these meals for mama. They're not thinking, is this the right type of food? Like you say, it's taking that pressure off. And then when partner goes back to work, that they still have that food in their fridge that they can easily reheat, and that they feel good eating because it's delicious, but they know it's also really good for them. So there's not that worry of, am I putting my hands on the right foods? And then they start to feel better a lot faster because you're giving yourself the food that you need to heal.
Yeah, and again, our whole brains aren't working properly, so even thinking about food is is hard. So yeah, that's a really amazing service. So the website is just Meals for Mamas.
The website is Meals for the number 4.
Oh, 4. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. MUMMAS.com.au. It is we're doing like lactation packs and snack packs and things like that as well, that, you know, as your baby starts to get older and perhaps you're able to start making some more meals, but you still need to be able to grab a snack that's really nutritious and easy to digest, and nourishing. We deliver across Central Coast, Newcastle and Sydney.
Yeah, great. So Sydney, Central Coast and Newcastle. Yeah, that's quite a big area. Congratulations. That sounds like a really wonderful adjunct to what you already do.
Yeah, thank you.
And is there anything else postpartum like that you wanna talk about that I haven't thought of?
Look, the other thing that, you know, we're actually going to tag this on to our Meals for Mamas website for our community. It starts to grow there, but it's what I'm doing and have been doing for quite some time is postpartum education evenings. So really shining a light on what we've discussed today, what type of conditions to get right in your home, how to have those difficult conversations, bringing in your inner circle, and understanding why you need to have this support and this time. And it's for, you know, mama and your partner. I really encourage both to be on those calls so that you can both get an insight, because there's a lot of aha moments and understanding, you know, what happens if you don't do that. And for those who have already had children, I get more second and third time mums and dads on those calls because they know that the first time round was such a shock to the system.
But it's often harder with second and third because there's also other small people.
Correct.
You know, so it doesn't get easier. It needs, so more education and more management of that is even more important.
Absolutely. And if you can't join on those calls, I do in-home private postpartum planning sessions with families, and we really tailor it to your individual needs. And I've spent the last couple of years putting together a 30-page workbook that they have to help them plan and really be able to execute and navigate this time.
Well, I'm sure people have had a lot of aha moments in this conversation too, Jenna. Like, it's just such an important area that, you know, often goes amiss because people are so distracted by the pregnancy and the birth and but it's like, what happens afterwards? You know, life changes forever in a really beautiful way, but we need to make sure it's a beautiful way rather than something that's just stressful that people are getting stressed about.
Yeah, that's right. It's the next phase, isn't it, of your parenting journey, and it requires just as much attention as the conception, the pregnancy and the birth.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jenna, and I hope everyone got a lot out of this conversation. I certainly did. There was a couple of things that I was like, really? So that was really wonderful.
That's good that I've taught you a couple of things, Sara. You know a lot. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Nice to talk to you.
Bye.
If you loved or learnt something in this episode, share it. And don't forget to subscribe. I look forward to bringing you next week's Awakening Conversation. Have a wonderful week.